Hello! I hope you're doing good today. I found another Christmas story to read to you today. This one's in a book called The Story Chest. And the story's called Father Christmas. And it's got some of my favourite characters in it. Hope you enjoy it. One day, Polly was in the kitchen washing currants and sultanas to put in a birthday cake when the front doorbell rang. "Oh dear," said Polly's mother, "my hands are all floury. Be a kind girl, Polly, and go and open the door for me, will you?" Polly was a kind girl, and she dried her hands and went to the front door. As she left the kitchen, her mother called after her, "But don't open the door if it's a wolf." There's a picture here. There she is, washing currants and helping her mother make a cake. There must be wolves that live near Polly. This reminded Polly of some of her earlier adventures, and before she opened the door, she said cautiously through the letterbox, "Who are you?" "A friend," said a familiar voice. "Which one?" Polly asked. "Mary?" "No, not Mary." "Jennifer?" "No, not Jennifer." "Penelope?" "No, at least I don't think so." "No," said the wolf decidedly, "not Penelope." "Well, I don't know who you are then," Polly said. "I can't guess. You tell me." "Father Christmas." "Father Christmas?" said Polly. She was so much surprised that she nearly opened the front door by mistake. "Father Christmas," said the person on the doorstep, "with a sack full of toys. Now, be a good little girl, Polly, and open the door, and I'll give you a present out of my sack." Polly didn't answer at once. "Did you say Father Christmas?" she asked at last. "Yes, of course I did," said the wolf loudly. "Surely you've heard of Father Christmas before, haven't you? Comes to good children and gives them presents and all that. But not, of course, to naughty little girls who don't open doors when they're told to." "Yes," said Polly. "Well then, what's wrong with that? You know all about Father Christmas, and I'm pretending to be, here he is. I don't see what's bothering you and making you so slow." "I've heard of Father Christmas, of course," Polly agreed, "but not in the middle of summer." "Middle of what?" the wolf shouted through the door. "The middle of summer." There was a short silence. "How do you know it's the summer?" the wolf asked argumentatively. "We're making Mother's birthday cake." "Well, I don't see what that has to do with it." "Mother's birthday's in July." "Perhaps she's rather late in making her cake," the wolf suggested. "No, she isn't. She's a few days early, as a matter of fact." "You mean it's going to be her birthday in a day or two?" "You've got it, wolf," Polly agreed. "So we're in July now?" "Yes." "It's not Christmas?" "No." "Not even if we happen to be in Australia? They have Christmas in the summer there, you know," the wolf said persuasively. "But not here. It's nearly half a year till Christmas," said Polly firmly. "A pity," said the wolf. "I really thought I'd got you that time. I must have muddled up my calendar again. It's so confusing, all the weeks starting with Mondays." Polly heard the would-be Father Christmas clumping down the path from the front door, and she went back to the currants. The weeks went by. Mother's birthday was over and forgotten. Holidays by the sea marked the end of summer and the beginning of autumn, and it was not until the end of September, when the leaves were turning yellow and brown and the days were getting shorter and colder, that Polly heard from the wolf again. She was sitting in the sitting room when the telephone bell rang. Polly lifted the receiver. "I ought to speak awfully," said a very muffled voice. "I'm sorry," Polly said politely. "I can't really hear." "Speak awfully." "I still can't quite hear," Polly said. "I want to—" "Oh, bother these beastly whiskers," said a different voice. There, now, can you hear? I've taken bits of them off. Yes, I can hear all right, said Polly, puzzled. But how can you take off your whiskers? They weren't really mine. Of me, I mean, they're mine, of course, but not in the usual way. I didn't grow them, I bought them. Well, said Polly, how did you keep them on before you took them off? Stuck them on with gum, the voice replied cheerfully, but I haven't taken that bit off yet. The bit I took off was the bit that goes all round your mouth, you know, a moustache. It got awfully in the way of talking, though. The hair kept getting in my mouth. It sounded rather funny, Polly agreed, but why did you have it on? So as to look like the real one. The real what? Father Christmas, of course, silly. How would I be able to make you think I was Father Christmas if I didn't wear a white beard and all that cotton woolly stuff around my face, a red coat and a hood and all that? Wolf, said Polly solemnly, for of course it couldn't be anyone else. Do you mean to say you were pretending to be Father Christmas? Yes. And then what? I was going to say, if you'd meet me in some lonely spot, say the crossroads at midnight, and I'd give you a present out of my sack. And you thought I'd come? Well, said the wolf persuasively, after all, I look exactly like Santa Claus now. Yes, but I can't see you. Can't see me? Said the wolf in surprise. We can't either of us see each other. You try, Mr. Wolf. There was a long silence. Polly rattled the receiver. Wolf, she called. Wolf, are you still there? Yes, said the wolf's voice at last. What are you doing? Well, I was having a look. I tried with a small telescope I happen to have by me, but I must admit I can't see much. The trouble is that it's terribly dark in here. Hold on for a minute, Polly. I'm just going to fetch a candle. Polly held on. Presently she heard a fizz and a splutter as the match was struck to light the candle. There was a long pause, broken by the wolf's heavy breathing. Polly heard him muttering, "Not down there, try the other end, then perhaps if I unscrew this bit, let's see this bit of wire properly." There was a deafening explosion which made poor Polly jump. Her ear felt as if it would never hear properly again. Obviously, the wolf had held his candle too near to the wires and something had exploded. I do hope he wasn't hurt himself, Polly thought, as she hung up her own receiver. It sounded like an awfully loud explosion. She saw the wolf a day or two later in the street. His face and head were covered with bandages, from amongst which one eye looked sadly out. "Oh, Wolf, I am so sorry," said kind Polly, stopping as he was just going to pass her. "Does it hurt very much? It must have been an awfully big explosion." "Explosion? Where?" said the wolf, looking eagerly up and down the street. "Not here, at your home, when you rang me the other day." "Oh, that," said the wolf airily. "That wasn't really an explosion. Just a spark or two and a sort of bang, that's all. I got the candle in the way of the wires and they melted together or something. Nothing to get alarmed about, thank you, Polly." Here's a picture of the wolf, all bandaged. "But your face," Polly said. "The bandages, didn't you get hurt in the explosion?" "No, but that gum, whew! Tell you what, Polly," said the wolf impressively, "don't ever try and stick a beard or whiskers on top of where your fur grows with spirit gum. It goes on all right, but getting it off is, well, if it had been my own hair, it wouldn't have been more painful getting it off. Next time, I'm just going to have one of those beers sort of spectacle things that you just hook over your ears. Don't you think that would be better?" "Much better. Not so painful to take off." "I should think not," Polly agreed. "Well, you just wait till I get these bandages off," the wolf said gaily. "Then you'll see. My own mother wouldn't know me." Perhaps it took longer than Polly expected to grow wolf fur again. At any rate, it was a month or two before Polly heard from the wolf again, and she had nearly forgotten his promise or threat that he was coming to find her. It was just before Christmas, and Polly was out with her mother doing Christmas shopping. The streets were crowded, and the shop windows were gay with silver balls and frosted snow. Everything sparkled and shone and glowed, and Polly held onto her mother's hand and danced along the pavements. "Polly," said her mother, "would you like to go into the toy department of Gerald's? I've got 1 or 2 small things to get there, and then you could look round. I think—" Thank you, Katniss. Sit on my knee nicely. "I think they've got some displays of railways and puppets, and they generally have a sort of Christmas fair with Father Christmas to talk to." Polly said yes, she would like that very much, and they turned in at the doors of the enormous shop and took a luxuriant glided lift up to the third floor to the toy department. It was really fascinating. While her mother was buying coloured glass balls for the Christmas tree and a snowstorm for Lucy, Polly wandered about and looked at everything. She saw trains and dolls and bears. She saw bicycles, tricycles, swings and slide, boats and boomerangs, and cars and carriages. At last she saw an archway above which was written "Christmas Tree Land." Polly walked in. There was a sort of scene arranged in the shop itself, and it was very pretty. There were lots of Christmas trees, all covered with sparkling white snow, and the rest of the place was rather dark, so that all the light seemed to come from the trees. In the distance you could see reindeer grazing or running, and high snowy mountains and forests of more Christmas trees. At the end of the part where Polly was, sat Father Christmas on a sort of throne. There was a crowd of children round him, and a man in ordinary clothes, a shop manager, was encouraging their mothers to bring them up to Father Christmas so they could tell him what they hoped to find in their stockings or under the tree on Christmas Day. Polly drew near. She thought she would tell Father Christmas that she wanted, more than anything in the world, was a clown's suit. She joined the line of children waiting to get up to the throne. The child in front of Polly was frightened. She kept on running out of the line back to her mother, and her mother kept on putting her back in place again. "I don't want to go and talk to Father Christmas," the little girl said. "He isn't a proper Father Christmas." "Nonsense," said her mother sharply. "Don't be so silly. Stand in that line and go up and tell him what you want in your stocking like a nice girl." The little girl began to cry. Polly, looking sharply at Father Christmas, couldn't help agreeing with her. Father Christmas had the usual red coat and hood and a lot of bushy white hair all over his face, but somehow his manner wasn't quite right. He certainly asked the children questions, but not in the pleasantest tone of voice, and his reply to some of their answers was more of a snarl than a promise. The little girl in front of Polly was finally persuaded to go up and say something in a breathy, awestruck whisper. Polly was just behind her and was near enough to hear the answer. "Would you like to see the picture of the Father Christmas?" Who does he remind you of?" "Box of sweets," said Father Christmas in a distinctly unpleasant tone. "What do you want a box of sweets for? Quite fat enough already to satisfy an ordinary person, I should think." The child clutched her mother's hand tightly, and the manager, who was standing near, looked displeased. "Come, come," Polly heard him say sharply in Father Christmas's ear. "You can do better than that, surely." Father Christmas jumped, threw a sharp glance over his shoulder at the manager, and leant forwards towards the little girl. "Yes, of course you shall have your box of sweets," he said. "Only wouldn't you like something more interesting? For instance, a big juicy steak with plenty of fried potatoes? Or what about pork chops? I always think myself there's nothing like—" "Next, please," the manager called out loudly. "And Happy Christmas to you, dear," he added to the surprised little girl who was being led away by her mother, unable to make head or tail of the extraordinary Father Christmas. Polly moved up. The Father Christmas inclined his ear towards her to hear what she wanted in her stocking, but Polly had something else to say. "Wolf, how could you?" she hissed in a horrified whisper. Pretending to be Father Christmas to all these poor little children, and you're not doing at all well either. It wasn't my fault, the wolf said gloomily. I never meant to let myself in for this terrible affair. I just put on my costume. I did the beard rather well this time, don't you think? And I went out to see if I could find you, and this wretched man, and he threw a glance of black hate at the shop manager, nobbled me in the street and pulled me in here and set me to asking the same stupid question to all of these beastly children. And they all want the same things, he added venomously. If it's boys, they want space guns, and all the girls want party frocks and television sets. None of them's asked for anything sensible to eat. One of them did ask for a baby sister, he said thoughtfully. But did she really want her to eat? I asked myself. I should hope not, said Polly firmly. And I'm much too hot with my whiskers, tickle my ears horribly, the wolf complained, and there's not a chance of snatching a bite with this man standing over me all the time. Wolf, you wouldn't eat the children, Polly said in protest. Not all of them, the wolf answered. Some of them aren't very... Next, please, said the manager loudly. A delicious, plump, juicy little boy was pushed to stand just behind Polly. He was reciting to himself and his mother, I want a gun, and I want soldiers, and I want a rocking horse, and I want a steam engine, and I think you're going to be very busy today, said Polly. I probably shan't be seeing you for a time. Happy Christmas, she added politely as she made way for the juicy little boy. I hope you enjoy yourself with all these friendly little girls and boys. Grrr, replied Father Christmas. I'll enjoy myself still more when I've unhooked my beard and got my teeth into one unfriendly little girl. Just you wait, Polly. Christmas or no Christmas, I'll get you yet. That was a Polly and the Wolf story. I love Polly and the Wolf. I hope you enjoyed that from the story chest. Have a lovely day.